It's nightfall in the Eastern Cape, and many communities are getting ready to turn in for the night. But here, in this village, it means stacking your weapons and preparing to fight for your life. Since December last year, there's been 11 brutal killings here, earning this remote area the informal title of the Village of Death. This is Zingqolweni, a village in the heart of the Cacadu municipality in the Eastern Cape. Quiet, picturesque, where everyone knows each other. But behind this seemingly comfortable facade of this rural village is a community living in terror. For community leader 𝗀𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗁
next.
Tell us a little bit about the recent spate of murders.
This started in December 2020. We were summoned somewhere and somebody has been killed. Nobody knew who killed him. Things like the pangas were used, knives were used. I then got up onto the phone, called the police and told them, this is the situation we find ourselves in. Please come out.
The body was that of 50-year-old 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝘀, a well-known community member. He was viciously stabbed and his throat was slit. His mother, 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃, recalls the day she received the devastating news. 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 and her granddaughter Portia now live in constant fear. 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃's brutal murder was just the beginning of the nightmare for this village. In January 2021, the body of 78-year-old 𝗀𝗁𝗵𝗶𝘀 was found. She had also been viciously stabbed. Still reeling from the two murders, on the 1st of February, the community of Zingqolweni woke up to yet another gruesome discovery. Shockingly, 4 bodies were found. The victims had been killed on the same night, bringing the death toll to 6 people.
As the community, we started getting worried as to what's going to happen next if there are no arrests, because it looks like anyone who has done this is still running around.
𝗀𝗁𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃's mother, 88-year-old 𝗀𝗁𝗃𝗃𝗃, was one of the unfortunate victims during this horrific night. The body of 88-year-old 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 was also discovered at the scene. He had been brutally stabbed and his throat had been slit. Despite forensic evidence being collected at the scene, 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃 is frustrated by the lack of progress in the case.
And the retired fita montlo, a fita gunali jacket ya jean, kamontlo, le glove ya wool. Utluaga February fita gatzatsilina, ka DNA ya bona. Also bilim thabai bonin na. Ke batla ke bona go tshwere batho bana ne ba etsang thutseng. Ba so tshware batho ba ne ba etsang thutseng mo. O shore ntwe a eno fela.
Community activist 𝗀𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 has been one of the first people to be called to the gruesome murder scenes.
Number 7 was a man, Nyongo. We think he was killed maybe on the 6th because he was found on the 14th, 13th, and the body was already decomposed.
She believes all the murders were committed by the same perpetrator.
We are dealing with a monster because these people are being killed the same way. You only get one cut.
For some reason, this individual has an issue with people of this particular age category, it seems.
Forensic psychologist Dr. 𝗀𝗁𝗵𝗶𝘀 studied these gruesome killings.
It's a small town in a rural area, so that the chances are greater that it could be someone who's actually from that environment. It doesn't seem that robbery was the motive. And cutting people's throats, despite what one sees on television and movies, is not a very typical way of killing a victim. It's a lot more difficult than just stabbing someone. That kind of points towards someone who has, obviously, for whatever reasons, a lot of built-up aggression, not per se towards that individual, but who that individual as a group of people represent. The question is, was his first murder actually in December 2020? That's just perhaps the first one we know of.
Some residents have since fled, whilst others spend their nights huddled together in groups purely for protection. Many of the people living here fear the killer or killers may be amongst them and can strike at any time.
People are living in the village. So there's a lot of houses that are actually abandoned. Because you need to sleep early so that you can get up at night, because most of these incidents happen at night. We take turns in sleeping. We sleep in groups. It's crazy.
Like many of the residents here, 𝗀𝗊𝗋 believes the villagers have been left at the mercy of this ruthless killer.
At some point, we felt like we don't belong in South Africa. We felt like this village doesn't belong, because how can people die and nothing gets done?
Following the 7th murder, tensions grew in the community. It all came to a head. It is alleged that angry community members rounded up 7 young men they suspected were behind the attacks. 5 of the men were burnt to death and the other 2 were hanged in a forest nearby. But the bodies still kept piling up, bringing the number of people killed to 11 in just 8 months. When the murders continued after those young men were killed, how did everybody feel then?
It's actually not anger anymore, it's sadness. Because you can't have your grandmother or your grandfather killed and nothing gets done.
SAPS provincial spokesperson for the Eastern Cape, Brigadier 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝘀, says they are making inroads.
We decided as the management of the SAPS to establish a multidisciplinary team. We prioritize every one of those cases. All these units must come together, the forensic, the crime intelligence, and many other units within the SAPS to make sure that our investigation leave no stone unturned.
Do you suspect a serial killer? Because there seems to be a similar modus operandi here.
We can't say with certainty that there is an involvement of a serial killer at this stage. However, we are continuing with our investigation.
Like I'm saying, I've engaged with the community leaders and spent some time there. They're not feeling that engagement from SAP's side.
From day one, we were there in that community. I mean, our top management in the province, we even went to an extent of making sure that we strengthen the structures of the community police forums within the very same community.
I've been there for the past 2 to 3 days. I have not seen a single one of your members.
We have our intelligence there. So if you talk, for instance, our intelligence, you are not going to see them because they are, working among the people. They are part of the community, the informal network.
Brigadier, let me get this right. An array of units involved. You're saying no stone unturned.
Right.
But the deaths and the killings still keep happening. We're sitting at 11 with no arrests. It's unacceptable, Brigadier.
Of course, I mean, we can't, any single death, is one too many. It's unacceptable. Even the structures within the SAPS itself visited each and every family there with groceries, giving support.
Brigadier, they don't want groceries and visits from politicians. They want arrests.
I'm not trying to mystify the issue of the work of the police, but remember, we're also a professional, transformed police, service.
I want to go to the clues that you talk about.
Of course.
There was a jacket and a glove, I believe, that was given to the SAPS. What do we know about this piece of evidence?
Whatever it is that we collected was sent to the forensic laboratory. We are still waiting for, the results. Some of the results came and they came negative. Some are still awaited.
With every day that passes without the killer being caught, this community grows desperate. And as darkness falls tonight, the people of Zingqolweni are left not knowing if they will see another day.